Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Interact's Creator Stories podcast. I'm your host, Jasmine Solana. As always, really excited to be with you guys today. And with me is actually a really cool episode because I am interviewing two people, and I have with me Angelique and Jeanne. Hi, guys. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having us.
Of course. Thanks for being on here. So, to give everyone a little bit of a background of who Angelique and Jeanne are, they are actually cousins and co founders of MV Media Lab, which is an agency that specializes in marketing funnels, design strategy, lead generation, and conversion optimization to ensure your marketing message reaches through screens and settles into the hearts of strangers. So, either of you can go first. Give us a little bit of a background of exactly what you do and some of the customers that you serve. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we specialize mostly in creating marketing funnels and, you know, optimizing a lead strategy for our clients, which typically are business coaches or wellness professionals, usually more in like the conscious, passion driven industry, because we found that that is the client we most resonate with and feel like we can actually help without feeling like, this isn't us type thing. So, yeah, typically coaches and wellness creators and course creators of that sort.
Exciting. Jeanne, did you want to add anything?
Oh, that was pretty on.
So you guys are co-founders, and what I found most interesting when I first found you online, I guess we kind of found each other in a way, but when I first read your about on your website, I noticed that you guys are cousins. So what is it like working together but also being family?
So at first I was like, will this work? Will this not? But eventually, as me and Ange kind of worked together, we actually found like the soulmate partner in each other, business partner. We actually started working on a certain project together individually. We were like subcontracted individually for a certain client. And then that's when it started, where we were like, we could actually partner up together and make an agency so that like our impact would be bigger and we could actually serve more people that we resonate with. So yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Did you have anything to add, Angelique?
Yeah, so that's essentially how we started. And, it wasn't kind of this big idea that we were like, okay, we know exactly what we're going to do. This is the people we're going to serve. We kind of were just like, okay, let's come together, see what we can do together. And once we started signing projects together, we just initially were just like, okay, are we going to be a social media agency? Are we going to be a design agency? Are we going to be a marketing agency? We just said yes to like every single client that came our way. But then eventually we kind of niched down and was like, okay, well, we can't offer social media strategy, but also be building marketing funnels on the back end. They're two completely different things. And we were just constantly wearing different hats all the time. So then as the years went on, we kind of just niched down into, we're good at marketing funnels. There are other markets that we could offer. We know a lot about those industries as well, but does it make, us happy type thing? So we kind of niched down to marketing funnels, running ads for those funnels, and building lead generation funnels.
I remember last time we spoke to you guys mentioned that, and you kind of said a little bit like you wear different hats. So you guys do two separate functions in your business, right? And so, how are you able to kind of just come together and be like, okay, you take care of what you're good at, I'll take care of what I'm good at, we'll come together and make it work without, I guess, getting into any arguments or kind of fights over what the end product looks like?
It actually never happened.
Oh,
Me
nice.
and arguing about something, we just naturally are drawn to what we were good at. Like she's
Mhm.
been very good at funnel building and designing, whereas I've been a paid ad specialist for like the longest time. So naturally, we already knew what we were supposed to do. And then we just come together and just figure out like the whole system for the client, like how it starts from the ad to where the ad redirects, like to the funnel and everything. Like we even did email nurture sequences in the past where Ange had to write it too. So it was a lot. We were basically doing everything for clients from the ground up just to like market their offer. So it was just exhausting in a sense, but then we never had any argument about like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing
Yeah.
that? Like that.
I think also a big reason why there were never really arguments was because both of us naturally have like a systems oriented personality. So we were just trying to figure out ways where we can streamline onboarding clients, passing over our work to clients. We were like, how can we make that as efficient as possible, but also put us in the correct positions where we wouldn't clash. So we did that early on, and I think we're really grateful that we have that like natural talent. I know a lot of people don't have that ability, but we were trying to think of ways where if we streamline this, it will make this process a lot faster when we onboard the next client. So that's the thing that we try to focus on whenever we take on new clients. We try to add a little bit, like a little piece to the puzzle to make that process a lot more streamlined where we don't have those conflicts arise.
Yeah, because I feel like it's always hard in like a business partnership where you both own, I guess half of it, and there it does come up. So I think that's really cool, and it's also interesting how you guys are related. And if anything, like if I were in business with my cousin, I think we would fight all the time.
Yeah, we were really, really surprised with that. Like there were times where like maybe we felt that, you know, someone wasn't pulling their own weight, but it was often because we also understood the stresses that were going on in their life. So we were a lot more understanding of like, okay, I understand this is going on in your life, but we need to focus on this. Let me know how I can support you, and we'll get over this little hurdle. So it was never like yelling and screaming. It was just kind of like, okay, we'll get through this together, but let me know what you need from me type thing.
Also, early on, we were very vocal about our boundaries. Like, hey, on Mondays, actually, I don't want to work. Like, that's like my rest day and stuff like that. So we don't expect like on Monday she'll work and stuff. So early on, just like establishing those boundaries helps us understand each other and how we kind of work. Because like Ange works differently than I do. Like I'm a morning like early riser where she's like later on the day kind of worker. So it's totally fine because like I'll answer the emails in the morning where she answers and deals with the stuff in the evening or like late in the afternoon. So it's a pretty good balance.
Yeah, I love that because people who are solopreneurs, right? They have the flexibility to decide, okay, I want to work this time to this time. And for the most part, they kind of just have to figure out, okay, when do I have to actually talk to clients? Like, what time does that look like? And that already is hard, but you guys seem to find a balance really well working with each other. My next question is kind of just how do you balance out if one person is maybe feeling burnt out and the other one is like, we have this huge project. We can't do it right. We can't do this right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something that every business owner and entrepreneur faces, even anyone in their career, really. You don't have to be an entrepreneur, you could just be anything. Burnout is such a real thing that everyone faces. And I think just understanding that, you're not the only one that is feeling that. I think that was the biggest thing where we were like, okay, we feel burnt out. Something is obviously pulling us too far in one direction. So we sometimes take, mental health days. We're like, okay, today we're not going to do work on the project. I know it's a big project, but, mental health and our, health, happiness, balance comes first. And we're really understanding with that because we have been pulled so far in the wrong direction where we don't want to wake up, we don't want to work, and it gets really, really dangerous when it gets that far. So when you kind of feel those feelings coming up, we know how important it is to, get out of the house, get out of the office, go to the gym, go in nature, do stuff like that so that we can kind of turn. I feel like the biggest thing that help solve burnout is just stepping away from the work. You won't be able to overcome it if you just consistently work, 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 work. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is just taking out time for those mental health days, which is really, really important.
Also, when it started to happen, or it did happen a few times with us, we took a step back and kind of like looked at the bigger picture. Okay, what's happening? What's going on? What's wrong? Which area are we like really stressed out about? That's when we realized that we were just saying yes to a lot of things. Like, I know we could do this, I know we could do that, but it was just like, let's stop thinking about just saying yes and getting a lot, like more and more and more clients. Let's like think about getting the clients that we like, which will eventually help us build where we want to be as an agency. Also, in the past, me and Ange would have like difficulty kind of like passing on the work to the people that we hired, like outsourcing stuff. Like we're kind of a bit of like a perfectionist, but then eventually we'll be like, it's okay, Ange, the design's fine. Or I'll be like, okay, the copy's fine. Also that we just had to like stop being like a perfectionist, stop trying to do everything on our own, because we do have help. We do have people under our belt who could like do it for us. And we just have to kind of take a step back and try not to micromanage everyone. So that's also like one of the biggest learning that we had along the way.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned kind of, I guess, to summarize, like be more selective of who you're working with like in terms of clients. And I think if you do really enjoy what you're doing, it'll show up in your work too, right? And then it's also the time that you're spending on it is more enjoyable as well. So I think that's awesome. Is there a way that you guys kind of figure out what that criteria is in terms of who do we like to work with, what do we want that to look like, and then, our work will kind of be better for it?
I mean, along the way, we had good and what you would say bad clients. They weren't necessarily bad, they just didn't match with us. And I always like to use the analogy like finding clients is kind of like dating. You're not going to be compatible with every single client you work with, and that's okay. And so we have had those bad clients, but we've also had those great clients. And when we started to feel like, at times burnt out, we were like, we pretty much built a customer avatar for our agency. And because we worked with clients, both good and bad, we were able to pinpoint specific things we liked, specific things we didn't like. And moving forward, like, okay, we need to be really crystal clear with expectations from the get-go. And that was something we learned along the way. We didn't automatically have this onboarding process for all of our clients. In our case, we were just like, how can we prevent any miscommunication, but also clearly explain what we expect from our client side, where not everything is on us. It's kind of like an equal, they have to pull their weight, we have to pull our weight to really get the outcome we need. So yeah, that's kind of how it evolved, really.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to put it. I, of course, have heard like figure out who your ideal customer is, but no one ever talks about like, what am I actually enjoying out of this experience?
Yeah,
And is it worth it for me?
exactly.
We always miss that part, right?
I think the thing too that people say, just find a niche or find your perfect client. I think it just comes with experience, because you really can't figure out what you like work best with if you haven't even tried having a client under your belt, basically. So that's also like one thing, like how can people understand their niche or understand their client avatar if they haven't even tried or put themselves out there.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. Just like in business in general, right? Like you want everything to be perfect. So you think of all the ways that you can strategize this launch, but it ends up being pushed back because then you change your mind and you won't actually know what worked and what didn't work until you put it out there and start testing it out for, however long. And then from there, you kind of figure out like, okay, this is what worked and what didn't work. So,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
No, it's all good. It's always hard when you're recording and you have to try to figure out like, oh, who's going to say what.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask you guys, so, my first question to kind of start this off with is, were you in your own businesses before you came together? Or were you just kind of, you had like corporate jobs?
So I go. I had just graduated college actually, and was just kind of like, after graduating, I was like, okay, I'm going to just do this soul searching journey through Asia and kind of like figure out what I want to do with my life. Throughout college, I was always dabbling in owning my own business. I had a few clients freelance while I was in college, but also working different internships. So I kind of always dabbled in business like activities even in college. And then when I did my backpacking trip around Asia, I was kind of like, okay, well, what do I want in my life? And I think I was really lucky to be able to have that experience, because I know a lot of people just like jump into a career right away. But yeah, I kind of just was like, okay, I'm just going to put myself out there and see what comes my way. I started offering to work for free, trying to get my hands on pretty much everything I thought I was good at. I was managing social media, I was building websites, I was, working on paid ads, and just pretty much said yes to every project. And it was the same thing with Lois. She kind of, you could tell your story. You could tell your story because it's different.
I was in corporate for like the past 5 years ago. I was in corporate. I was the head of Google Ads management there. And then I was just like, oh, I could basically do this on my own and just get my own clients. But it was a risk though, like leaving my corporate job to try to build my own thing. So I did that. And I also, like, here in the Philippines, digital marketing is not as way up there as it is in like America or the other countries. So me and my other like colleagues here are kind of like on the pioneers in terms of the people who knows how to do ads, who knows how to do like Facebook and Google ads. So as COVID happened, that's when I lost basically all my clients for Google ads. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I started to just do freelance work too. That's when me and Ange also kind of like aligned in a sense, or oh, you're working for this project and I'm working for this project too. And so it just like kind of came together at that point.
Yeah, it was never forced.
Yeah, forced. From building my own agency, Google Ads agency here in the Philippines, to like letting go of people, that was very hard because I knew those people had families to feed and stuff, but what can we do? The clients had to pull out because their businesses are not functioning anymore. So we can't run ads. And most of the people that we run ads for had like brick and mortar businesses. So they had to like really shut down. And there's no point running ads if they're shut down, right? So I tried holding on to them for a couple of months, but then the finances was also not coming in for me. So I just had to have like the hard decision to let them go. And then that was just like pretty depressing. So I just had to go back into just freelance independent contractor work. And then that's when me and Ange eventually like came together, basically. COVID.
But I think also it was like just the right timing as well.
Yeah.
Like if I imagined myself a year before we decided to come together as business partners, I think there would have been so much conflict because I didn't know what I was necessarily an expert in, without the experience that I had prior. And then similar with Jean, like she was working with clients, and if she was working with her clients that she had on her own, plus we were trying to build an agency, it's like, again, wearing too many different hats. It's like, if you don't, if you're half one step in one thing, one step in the other, it's like you're giving half of your energy to both things, and both of them won't get to a point where you want it to go. So yeah, I think it was all just like organic, natural timing type thing, and our experience, our collective experience in our past, kind of is what made it work for both of us.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and it's really cool because kind of like how you were saying, right? You had, good and bad experiences. You take those experiences and you figure out your own niche and how, like, what kind of clients you want to work with. But you are also able to do that with your work apart as well. Like, hey, here's what I tried, here's what I'm good at, and let's make something out of this, rather than, most of the time I feel like when I hear kind of business partners come together, it's like, oh, I want to start a business. Do you want to start a business? All right, let's just do it. There isn't this like plan, I guess, in place yet. And it's really interesting how you guys did it sort of backwards in a way, or I guess sort of sideways. I don't really know how to explain it. You had these kind of collective already experiences and opinions, and you're like, we can do better, rather than, just coming up with something and seeing if it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was the beauty of it. We saw the gap in the marketing industry really at the time when we started. It was very heavily, like, at least the marketing funnel side of things was heavily influenced by men. And so we were pretty much kind of like, okay, we're not attracted to, big red buttons, the sleazy marketing tactics. We were like more focused on building that connection in an authentic way, whether that's through marketing messaging, whether that's through videos, whether that's through a funnel that looks as beautiful as it is as how much it sells. So that was kind of the gap we were filling. We wanted to make beautiful funnels and market those. And at that time, it wasn't really a thing. So we pretty much came together, closed that gap. Obviously, not entirely, but but came together, and that was our goal. We wanted to close that gap to make marketing not this thing that people felt uncomfortable doing. We wanted it to feel natural. We wanted it to feel organic. And we wanted to focus on the connection aspect of building that relationship with your clients, as opposed to just marketing just to market.
Yeah, I love that. I say it all the time about how I think what's changing now is, especially our generation, we grew up with the TV and with cable, and it's just like commercials kind of yelling at you everywhere. I like to say yelling at you because that's what it feels like, but I know they're not actually. And then on top of that, with the rise of the internet, we get all these like ads of just like clickbait, not even really giving the value of, oh, what you're clicking on. It's just like, click here, do it now. All these big bright lights. But I think that's awesome. So as you guys kind of go into this industry, right, and you start to see this gap, you want to fill it with something new, something different, and something more, I guess human in a sense, less clickbaity. What were some of the things that you found challenging in that as you were trying to, also create an actual business out of this?
I think some of our clients, like early on, some of our clients did not resonate with that because, what worked for building their businesses were things like those funnels with big red buttons and that marketing sales language that doesn't sound nice but works. Like, the thing is that stuff maybe like doesn't resonate with us, but in analytics they're constantly shown that they work. So a lot of times at the beginning, the clients we were already working with were like, okay, we can try it, but we're not really sure. When we kind of decided we wanted to go down the organic, authentic type marketing path, we realized that we actually started to attract the people who didn't want to sound super salesy. And that was the beauty of it, because once we started communicating like, oh no, the way we market is organic. We want to sound like you as much as you do. Like, we don't want it to sound inauthentic. We want you to feel excited about it, because otherwise there's something that's missing. There's something that's wrong. And what we noticed was that people we were attracting also felt the same way about marketing. A lot of times people were coming to us and they were like, I want to do marketing, but I don't want it to sound sleazy. I want it to be beautiful. I want it to sound beautiful. And that's, as we decided to focus on that authentic language, that's when we started to attract clients who also wanted that same thing. So it wasn't something that naturally came to us. Like at the beginning, it was kind of like, okay, we'll pitch this idea. We don't know if they'll want it, but then eventually it kind of led down the path of people are coming to us because we offer this specific thing.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us, like, for people listening, just sort of, I don't know if timeline is the right word, but how much of, kind of trial and error and talking to the wrong people did it take for you to finally find that niche of people who are like, this is exactly what I was looking for?
I think the first 6 months was the roughest because we had clients that already like signed on that we were like, oh, this is really not working, or this is actually too much, until I think we just came to a decision that we have to let this client go, because if we don't close this chapter, then we can't like begin another chapter looking for the clients that we already resonate with. So we had to let go of that client and then start looking for the clients that we already have, like similar clients to them. So that's when it started, I think. But then
Yeah.
also, like all throughout the year, we still get those clients like, oh, this is not working and stuff. But I think even now, we will still get that, but at least now we have a clearer vision of what we can offer or what we want to do. So,
Yeah. I think also it was kind of a chain reaction. Like one of the
yeah.
first clients that we felt like probably the most compatible with is probably the person that also referred us the most, because we didn't just think of our clients as just a working relationship. We saw them as friends. We talked about life. We talked about what was going on during the pandemic. We were just as human to them and not just, a person behind a screen that's working for them. We really tried to figure out all possible ways where we can build their business up, but also, again, be that authentic person behind the marketing. So that's kind of how it evolved. Initially, the clients we were getting, we were ourselves. We just weren't compatible, I guess, at that time. But then once we started going down that route, the referrals started to come in from the clients we were just naturally ourselves with. And we were really lucky for that matter, because we really didn't have to do that much outreach. In the end, clients kept coming to us because people were referring us based on their past experience and work with us. So that was the beauty of it as well. What came out of, just being real, being authentic, and not forcing anything upon anyone, just realizing that we want to help the business exceed. We like you as a person. We like your message. We like your offering. How can we add our areas of expertise to support you? And that was the language we went into every single business partnership. And it's done well for us.
Yeah.
I love that. I like that a lot. I was gonna ask, like, what are some of the ways that you can keep that sort of kind of natural and organic relationship with someone when it's all over the computer and calls, and then, even their business is online, right? So how do you keep that human connection while also accomplishing the goals that you need to?
Yeah, I mean, I think our calls naturally will
Yeah.
just flow. where we, before we talk about anything business or work or scalability related, we always have like 10, 20 minutes catch up, like what's going on in your life, what's up, where are things, like how are the kids, how's the family, like there are always those conversations that we have prior to talking about work. So it's kind of like a work hard, play hard type thing. We know you're a real person. We know you go out on the weekends, and we want to know about that stuff, because also knowing our clients in an authentic way also helps us market them in an authentic way as well.
Ooh.
So that was the biggest thing, where we're like, okay, if we know the person, the client, as much as we can, we understand their values, we understand what they're doing on the weekend. So then when we do write things like sales copy, we can like pinpoint those specific things happening in their life, because we know it's real, but also use it in a way to market in an authentic way.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think the first thing that we always ask our clients is their story. Like, what's your story? And then based on that, that's where we kind of like organically flow from. Like just understanding their story, what's like their pain points in the past, or how they started and stuff like that. What's the vision of their business? That's really where we pull our like content from, where we try to like get to know them from the start, like from that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's cool that you guys do that, because that is how I start off my intro calls for this podcast. I don't know if you noticed when we hopped on our call, but I decided that it's like you can't get the real story, or you can't get someone's kind of true, I guess, personality if it's just very structured. You have really specific questions, but if you hop on and you're just like, "Hey, like how are you doing? You know, where are you? Where do you live?" Even just something as simple as that. I hopped on a call once and we talked about the weather for like 20 minutes. And, and it's just such a cliche small talk, but it still works, right? Like you can still get a feel for who they are. You can get a feel for what they like, what activities do they do in the summertime when it's hot, and that's where the conversation can go. I think that's really cool that you guys do that a lot. So,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Oh no.
One of those disagree.
One of those, yeah.
I kind of wonder what this will sound like in audio, just because we
Yeah.
haven't done 3 people before, but I think it'll be good. So
Yeah.
I guess I remember you guys also mentioning on our last call that you're in 2 different countries. And I would just wanted to kind of follow up with, what is that like running a business in totally separate places?
We've made it work.
It works.
I mean, constantly we're like, once borders open up, we'll be in the same place, definitely. But, our business kind of was born amidst the pandemic. We started like January 2019-ish. And there were days where we were like brainstorming business plans and working on client projects, and we were on Zoom for probably like majority of the day, as if we were together. It's I think that's the beauty of Zoom and the internet and technology, is that it makes it possible. Most of our clients are either in the States or England or Europe. And so even time zones was like a big thing that we had to become accustomed to. I feel like now all the time I know exactly what time it is in California, in New York, in Florida, in England, in Thailand, in the Philippines. And like, that's not someone like, I think getting accustomed to the fact that, time zones are a real thing. It's something we have to deal with when we choose to live in this side of the world. And, Zoom makes it really easy, honestly. And I think also just creating roadmaps for the projects we're working on, what needs to occur this week, what needs to be accomplished this week, how can we delegate those tasks to the team so that they're on schedule for the projects that we're working on. And it's worked. The time zone for us really isn't a big issue, because for us it's only an hour difference. And I wake up later anyway, so it's fine. um, but yeah, it's technology has made it pretty seamless.
Of course, at times we think about like, oh, it could have been way easier if we're together and stuff like that. But what can we do, right? We have to make things work with what we have.
Mhm.
And then that's just like we also just missing each other very much. But I think that like when we go on Zoom for like 4 or 5 hours, because we're cousins, it's not like exhausting. But I think if it's just like random, like if it's my boss or a random business partner that's not like my cousin, I would be like exhausted talking to that person. Whereas me and Ange will be on this like 5 hour calls, but then in the middle of the call, we'll talk about life and not just like work. So there's like little bits of breaks in there, and then we'll go back to like being on serious note, and then like laugh, and then joke and stuff like that. So that's pretty good too.
No, yeah, I think that's super interesting because I totally get what you mean by being on calls and just kind of being tired from it when it's work related. I don't even know why that's a thing, but it is real. So I think that's super cool. What are, I guess, you mentioned working in completely different time zones, like as in your clients. How do you kind of prevent yourselves from becoming overwhelmed? Working weird hours. And then on top of that, is it both of you always together or is it kind of here and there? Like, do you take different days?
So
Yeah, sometimes.
from the get go, we establish like expectations from the client
Mhm.
that we don't work within your office hours. Obviously, we won't work in like US hours or London hours. From the get go, we tell them that there's like a timeline and expectations in our onboarding process that our team and me and Ange will work while you sleep. We'll set up your ads, your funnels while you guys like have your weekend and while you sleep. But then we do have bi-weekly calls with them, bi-weekly or month end of the month calls with them. So we did have like times that we had calls like in the middle of the night for us, but it's
Oh, wow.
before them, but it's fine because it's just like a few calls in a month rather than like having to work within their hours, which is kind of like too much. And
Yeah, I mean, I think the hours was something that we just became accustomed to. If we are onboarding a client in California, we know that time is going to be different. Like, it's not like working with clients in England. It's fine because it's like a 6 hour difference. So we're taking the calls in the evening, which I feel like for us works because we get like all of the hard work, deep work done in the morning, and then we have our calls. With places like California or anywhere in the US, really, we communicate from the get-go that we'll try to reduce calls, but also increase the amount of communication. So Slack is a big thing that we always communicate over with our clients in the States, just so that they always know what we're working on. Because it isn't realistic for us to jump on calls every day, especially with clients in the States. And so that is something that we communicate from the get-go. And then also just those every other week calls or end of month calls are also super helpful, especially when it comes to marketing campaigns, because that's when you have a great amount of data that you can analyze. You can't really analyze data over 1 day, 2 days. So those end of month calls or every other week calls is really what drives most of our business and marketing decisions is the data over the span of months.
So are you guys able to still work like normal working hours, 8 hours a day, even with that?
more.
Sometimes more, but I feel like also it's kind of fun. It's like a lot of people always ask me like, well, oh, how many hours do you end up working on your business? As business owners, I feel like it's almost impossible to completely shut off from your business. It is your life. You've chosen this career. But for us, it's like we went into it as a passion project, really. We were like, okay, we enjoy doing this. How can we add this to other people's businesses and their lives? So sometimes, like, it depends, it varies really. Some weeks I'm working like, I'm like, what did I do this week? Nothing. And then other weeks I'm like, oh, there's so much work to do, and we just do it. But that's the beauty of having a business, being an entrepreneur, is you have this flexible schedule that you kind of work with. And if some weeks you want to work 10 hours and then other weeks you want to work 60 hours, then awesome. I feel like that's kind of just working in your flow state. And if it works, it works.
True. That's why like I don't like people saying, "Oh, you should just work 4 hours," or if you run a business, you should just work like less than the usual than being like in a corporate job. When in fact, when you are an entrepreneur, you work more hours than like a normal person because it's like your business. Even though like when we were on like vacation, I still think about things of how to make our process better or our systems better. So you never, like what Ange said, we never really shut off.
Is that tiring to never shut off, or?
Honestly, because like you basically want to make a system work.
Yeah.
Just
It's
do
more
the
exciting,
like because in the long run,
I'd say, than exhausting.
yeah. So we could, in order for us to step back from our business, then we have to really build a system and a process that's like systems based rather than people based.
Mm-hmm.
So when we step back or when people leave and everything, like the business will still thrive. Like it will be like, oh, our social media manager just quit, what to do now?
Mm-hmm.
But then if we just replace that person and then that person just follows the system, then we're up and running again, you know? So that's constantly like basically on my end, thinking of systems and processes, whereas and thinks of the other things like the vision and the client acquisition and everything, and like the designs and stuff. So we really have our own like roles and responsibilities within the business.
Yeah, I love that. I was actually just talking to somebody the other day where they were pretty much saying something similar, that um it's better to kind of set it up so that, like you said, if, all hell breaks loose, I guess, you have something in place that's easy to pick it back up, or for whatever reason you do need to step back, it's still running, it's still going, rather than it not. But I think it's super interesting how you're able to kind of, because you love it so much, you're still able to kind of relax, but think about your
Yeah.
your business at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah, I think our best like visions and decisions have come when we're away from work.
Mhm.
Like when I'm relaxing, getting massage, like I feel like that's when it clicks. Like I'm like, I come out of whatever relaxation thing I'm doing and I'm call her and I'm like, oh my God, I have this great idea. And it kind of just like it kind of snowballs. So I always like think whenever I'm feeling uninspired, I just step away, focus on myself, do the thing that I feel like will rejuvenate my energy, and usually it does. So yeah, most of our best decisions have come when we're technically away from work, but you don't really ever stop. We don't really ever stop thinking about ways to grow the business or the business in the future, because we always know we have just like a clear vision of what we want to create for us, for our future families type thing. And so, yeah, it's kind of like a game, really. It's like, oh, how can we make this better? What are we missing? Type. And so, yeah, I think we've just kind of like gamified owning a business, and it's enjoyable.
Yeah, because I mean, I hear it all the time, right? Where people are like, oh, I mean, I don't know, maybe it has something to do with like focusing on profit versus actually enjoying what you're doing. But I hear it all the time where people, they want to push out some kind of course, or they want have this huge launch, and they're just so exhausted that it's no longer fun for them anymore. So how do you make sure that you guys still stay true to your brand, but and making sure that you enjoy what you're doing, and that you're actually also still providing the service that you want to provide to people?
I think just for us, we don't necessarily focus on the
Oh,
profit
yeah.
of everything that we do. We know if we put passion, like create passion project for ourselves, like creating a program or working with clients, if we create those passion projects, or like we do it for fun and don't put so much pressure of like, oh, this is going to make X amount of money in the next month. We don't put that pressure on ourselves. And I think that also helps with the creation process. It makes it more enjoyable, more creative, more fun. And we're not doing anything just for the money. And so I feel like for us, not putting pressure on the profit side of things and putting more like excitement into how can we create, how can we cultivate all of these different things to work for our clients. It makes it more enjoyable in that sense when there's not this outside pressure of, well, that coach launched a program and they're doing this, so I need to do that. We don't put that pressure on ourselves because it doesn't excite us. It doesn't motivate us. The things that motivate us are the things like, okay, I feel like I could do really good at this. This is going to be my game plan to create this. I don't know when it's going to be done. Yes, I'll have soft deadlines, but the pressure of making money quickly isn't there. So I think it helps.
That's when it started too. When we started saying no, we had to realize that when we say no, we will lose a lot of money because we're being selective in a sense. But because we got rid of that pressure of just like thinking about the money, the money, the money, money, it allowed us to become more creative, more authentic, and go to the direction that we really want to. Because obviously, me and Ams would also love to like, we are also like creating courses and stuff, but we're not in the sense like, oh, we should finish this so we could launch and get this money or like get this like fame or whatever. We're actually doing it because we want to help people learn those things, to learn those specific skills and services. I, for one, wanted to like create courses for Google Ads because, as I've said, in the Philippines, a lot of people doesn't really know how it works or, the technicalities of it because digital marketing on this side of the world is a little slow. So just being able to teach that to them, even just like an overview or like a crash course, is already like super rewarding or on my end. So when me and Ange does create stuff like videos and like courses, we think about like the rewarding feeling that we get, like just being able to help out and being able to transform other people's lives rather than thinking about the money that we get from them. So I think that's one of the most important things that we've learned too along the way.
I love that. That's awesome. And I like how you guys kind of give yourself room to
Yeah.
breathe rather than, I just kind of like how you kept reiterating, like, we don't put pressure on ourselves, because I think that's a big thing, right? And people get really caught up in like those stories online where it's like, oh, I made like 6 figures in 1 month after doing this crazy launch that took me a million hours and so on and so on. But take that pressure away and you can actually like still accomplish what you want to accomplish, and everything will kind of fall into place from there.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like we find each other like, hey, how's the thing? But it's not like what's going on when you go for like little check-ins here and there,
Mhm.
which already is a lot. Like whenever Ange asks me about this, I'll be like, oh yeah, I should do that. Something like that.
Yeah, we do quarterly meetings where it's kind of like we set goals at the beginning of the year, beginning of the quarter, and over the year we're like, okay, what of those goals have we accomplished? What needs to roll over into the next quarter? So those quarterly check-ins for us have been really helpful because we're reminded of the goals we set for ourselves at the beginning of the year, and we're like, oh yeah, I did have that as a goal of mine to accomplish this year. I should start focusing on that now. And it's not this big pressure where by like May 1st, I need to launch this thing. It's more of like, these are all of the things I want to accomplish. how can we support each other so we can accomplish those things personally, but also in a business sense. So those quarterly meetings for us help us stay on track without the pressure of deadlines for us to launch a thing.
I love that. I love that. Well, we're coming up on time, guys. So thank you so much again for coming on our show with us today. I do have 2 last questions that I wrap up every episode with, if you're up for it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, cool. So, second to last question, what are 3 things that most people wouldn't know about you? Sorry, I sprung it up on you.
Let's see. I feel like because we're so transparent about our business journey that most people know most things about us. Like I'm trying to think of like, okay, maybe people might not know that after graduating college, I just like flew to Asia from Chicago, but like that's something that I'm very vocal about all the time. And then like the thing that we're cousins. Actually, a lot of our clients don't realize we're cousins when they when like on our onboarding call, and then we tell them, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I feel like we're really transparent in terms of our work and our lives, that I don't think there's much that people don't know about us as like an agency or even us individually.
I think they don't know we traveled together the year prior to COVID.
Yeah.
We were just like having fun, and then we went from like just sibling cousins kind of like bonding time to like business mode and like building something mode. Because I think most of the people think that me and Ange just like, hey, let's just start this. When in fact it didn't happen that way. As we've talked about early on in the show, a lot of people doesn't realize that it wasn't really forced. It was more of like it just happened. Like the stars have aligned for us.
Those are always the best stories, though, where it just kind of fell into place. No plans, nothing. No, that's awesome.
Because I even remember like when we were traveling together, we were doing like brand photo shoots, and like I was like, oh well, you can't be in my pictures because everyone knows you're my cousin. I don't want it to look like my business is just like my cousin as my client. Like that looks weird. So I was like, we were both like, oh yeah, no, definitely that makes sense. And then a year later, like we're talking about that exact photo shoot we did together, and we're like, why didn't we just take pictures together? Because now we can't because of COVID. So it's just like this funny thing that like we never planned to go into business. Like it wasn't this thing we had growing up where we're like, one day we're going to start a business together. It was more like, I don't see us, we started our business basically out of just naturally organic stars aligning.
Love that. So my last question for you guys is, what is a single piece of advice you would give to yourself at the start of it all?
I think just trusting that everything would fall into place. There were so many times, I think being an entrepreneur and starting a business is scary. And at times you'll doubt yourself, and other people will doubt you as well. That's just something that comes with it. And I'm very lucky that, you know, my brother is an entrepreneur. My family is super supportive. So I was always very vocal about days where I'm like feeling down or scared of the future. I'm like, oh, maybe I should just go back to Chicago and, you know, go to the corporate world because it's a lot less pressure than building this business on the other side of the world. If I told myself then, the biggest thing was just trust that if you continue to focus on what you're passionate about, what you love doing, what you enjoy doing, things will naturally fall into place. And for us, they really did.
Yeah. And on my part, I think it's like, know that it's okay to make mistakes, because along the way, those mistakes will become your strengths, because now you know better. Now you know what you're worth, like what to charge, whether you're an independent contractor, a freelancer, or if you're starting an agency. Where like in the past we didn't know how much are we going to charge, or how much value are we, like what's our worth, you know? So just know along the way you're going to make mistakes, but then you'll learn from them anyway. So I think that's like the most important bit. Like don't like beat yourself up too hard because like, oh my god, I did this or I didn't deliver for this ex or for this client and stuff. Like it's just all part of the process. And as what Ange had said, like just trust the process and kind of just like surrender to the universe in a sense.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, thank you again for hopping on. Before I forget, can you let everyone know, especially for those who are listening, where they can find you online?
So you can follow us on Instagram at MV Media Lab. It will also link to our individual profiles there, Angelique Bastille and It's Jeanne Louise. Or you could check out our website, mvmedialab.com, to find out more about the services we offer and get in contact about that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again. And thanks to those of you who are listening. And we will see you next time. Bye.